izongishaya-ke kodwa kwi-date. Sure. I'm live, dog.
What is it? No.
So ungadayela ini. Sekuwuwe odayela ini.
Need to join.
Yeah. Join the meeting. Join my meeting, dog. Or are we able to start? But you must start. It's fine. Join. Because what I'm trying to tell you now, it's an it's. Oh, yes, and this is
So get out and go.
Yeah, get out, dog. Kahle kahle mengakusetshela le nto loyiqalile wena yazi.
Meeting ID 96.
Hayi, no.
4998
Dok ungazibizi lezi zinto lana kule because uyalazi.
Fine.
Abantu bazokuzwa, this is recorded.
Hello. Continue. Okay.
Yeah, ngiyakubona. So don't worry, ngizok yeah, ushaya. So manje ngibenze njani ngibangenise abantu bakho?
Imancane. At 10 to. Yebo. Ungabangenisa at 10 to. At 10 to. Okay, bangenisa. Ungabangenisa.
Okay. Sure. Okay, ngiyabangenisa-ke doc, ne?
Okay.
Sipho in. Okay, admit. No, Peloga.
Yeah.
Okay, they are all in now. I'm just quickly setting up your page.
I think there's still a few more who are coming.
Page was not set up. Fine, ngizobathatha in. It's good ukuthi ngilana yazi ezinye izinto ey'ningi engiy'sethapile la angizange ngikhombise zona. Mina eish yazi let me just do this. I need to make you a guest in pool, man. That dog.
Eh?
I'm going to make you a guest. I'm going to make you a host and then we get home.
Fine.
Yes, now. Hi.
Manje ingle.
I'm on a conference at this moment.
Phuma lapha sibona isithombe sakho nengane. Themba.
Doc,
Yeah.
hey, I'm gonna make you a
Phuma ba. But manje labanye.
I'm making you a host. Oh, that's a thing now. Let me make sure ukuthi bonke bangenile
Yeah,
first.
Phuma masokungene wonke umuntu.
By 3 abakhona la. Okay. You know what? Let me just do this. Abakwazi unmute. How to unmute?
Unmute them.
But okay. Hello guys.
Hello.
Hello Silukazi.
Yebo.
Ngimutile guys. So ukuze you know ngizona unmute again.
Okay.
I'm gonna mute you. Allow password to mute. Okay, fine. Let me. So talk bang apa bang then? Abang bang itu.
There's still a number of people. Maybe another 4 people.
Okay. Okay, I will wait then.
Imalinda kancane until 4.
Yes, umtshele mas all right. Okay. Okay. I can go live. This is. Okay, that's fine. Let me make you a host now. Make a host. Do you want to change the host to Fundi Lenyanti? Yes. Okay. You, Fundelenyat is now a host.
We've got 3 minutes now.
Yeah, but I've handed over everything to you now.
Doc, can you hear me?
I can hear you very well. We've got 2 minutes to go.
Okay, great.
Speaker, can you hear the speaker?
So we good? We good?
2 minutes to go.
Okay. All right. So while we're waiting for to start, should I do the greetings and then allow Madam Speaker to say a word or two, and then you can do the opening remarks and introduce the topic, and then we move from there?
Yeah, welcome the people, you know, and the speaker does the same and contextualizes, then I'll come after.
Okay, great. Thank you.
We've got a minute to go. We've got a minute to go.
Doug,
Yeah, Puma Baba Manj.
bakhona sebalindele.
There's many people. I don't know. I can only see 4 people here.
Okay, then uzoba. Oh, okay.
Yeah, the guests haven't arrived except Pelogas.
Okay, this is how we're gonna accept them. We're gonna admit them. You've got that participant, manage participant.
Yeah.
You click on it.
No, please do that for me because it's time to go in now, Baba. Please do that for me.
Okay,
Okay.
then let me wait for them.
Okay, Sipo, you can take over.
Okay. Well, it's a very good afternoon to everybody who's joined us on this live broadcast. Once again, this is the talk with the Speaker of Council. This is where Madam Speaker, Menoneba Mulwele, who has been convening such discussions with professionals. And today, we are honored to have our guests, and I will introduce them. So we will be joined, and also just to say good afternoon to Madam Speaker and Dr. Nyati. He is co-hosting with me today, so he'll be handling the sessions. And also just to say good afternoon to, I see joining us on the line, Me Pelokazi Nyati, who is a woman with many talents. And I do want to say quickly that she's a physiotherapist, qualified physiotherapist, a holistic healer. She's a qualified spiritual and life coach, and she's a neuro-linguistic program coach. She's also the head of business operations at PHS, the head of spirituality division within PHS. And we'll also introduce other guests as they come on and join us on this live discussion. And at this point, let me say good afternoon to you, Madam Speaker, if you can welcome everybody as well.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, Sipo, and good afternoon to our co-host, Dr. Fundile Nyati. Good afternoon to Sis Pelokazi Madlingozi, and good afternoon to all our participants who are still going to join us this afternoon in this important conversation. So today to the viewers, we are talking about the COVID-19 impact on Indigenous healing. And I must say that this platform, it's a platform where we share knowledge. That is why we have all people, we invite all the people with expertise, people who have the knowledge on the subject. So today we have invited all people with the knowledge on the subject of Indigenous healing. and we want to discuss the impact of COVID-19 so that our viewers can benefit from this platform. We know, Sipho, that while there are those who are seeking general medical care, many others are putting their faith and belief in consultation with traditional healers, traditional medicine, as well as prophets. There are those who would also go to prophets. That's why today we have invited prophets, faith-based organization. And I must say that in Johannesburg, we do have a structure of faith-based organizations, and we recognize the work that they are doing. And I must maybe, as I conclude, say that the formal healthcare sector has shown continued interest in the role of traditional health practitioners and the efficacy of their herbal remedies. And we know the role of traditional healers in the provision of health care through indigenous medicine cannot be overemphasized. And our government has actually recognized the role of the traditional health practitioners and indigenous healing. Hence, we are having this topic today. So with those few words, I would like to welcome everybody on board. I won't be taking long. I won't be making a long speech because we want all the participants to have enough time to share knowledge with our viewers.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for that, Madam Speaker. Much appreciated. Doctor, you can take over and introduce the topic, please, Dr. Nyati.
All right. In the meantime, Prasipo, can you check on the other guys, how far they are? Because, it's important that, all right, just hold on. Right. As I'm talking here, I'm also just looking at people who are trying to join in. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. There is a new guest coming up. Maybe you should introduce that guest, Sipo.
The chairperson.
Okay. Let me just see. I'm trying to see the guest.
Tebe.
Okay.
Chairperson.
Oh, okay. Good afternoon, Chairperson. I hope you are well. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
You must unmute.
Okay. Please unmute your microphone.
Okay, done.
Good afternoon. How are you, sir? Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, Bishop Tebe.
Good afternoon, and a pleasure meeting you here.
Thank you very much. Doc, I think maybe if you can start, and then we'll introduce when everybody has joined in and just individually welcome them.
Okay. All right. All right. I think today's topic or discussion or conversation is very relevant. The first thing we need to understand is that we are in the continent of Africa. Now, in the continent of Africa, long before colonization, there were certain belief systems. There were certain understanding, or was a certain understanding of issues of illness or disease. There were certain ways of seeking solutions for healing. Yes, during the period of colonization and maybe apartheid, some of those practices that were indigenous to people here were actually suppressed. In fact, traditional healing was outlawed in South Africa up until 2007. Only in 2007, when our government came up with an Act number 22 of 2007, which is the Traditional Health Practitioners Act, where then there was a recognition of traditional healing in South Africa, that it must work parallel or hand in hand with orthodox medicine. So that act wanted to establish an interim body, that is a statutory body, to make sure then that all traditional healers, the different types from Inyanga to Izangoma to Abaprofeti to traditional surgeons, to the people who are training people to become traditional healers, and the trainees themselves, all of them are covered under that act. And an interim body was established, which is supposed to come up with regulations on how the traditional healing must be practiced in South Africa. So I thought I needed to give that to say traditional health practitioners are recognized health practitioners in South Africa by law. And in fact, even our constitution actually says that they are recognized. There should be no discrimination in terms of religion, culture, and all of those things. So we are in a country then that recognizes traditional healing. However, the regulations to make it work have not yet come out more than 10 years later. And that obviously presents some challenges because people are consulting on the ground, but the law is actually, moving very slowly. And so as we have this discussion today, it's important to understand that they are fully fledged health professionals who should be treated in the same way as any other, professionals in the country. Obviously, their body needs to come up with the regulations, working closely with the Department of Health. So I thought, let me just open with those statements. Maybe one other thing I needed to just say is that, in some study that was done in Soweto, they found that at least 75% of people who were attending hospitals or clinics for HIV and AIDS, situation, 75% of those started with traditional healers before they went to consult orthodox or Western medicine. So that should tell you that we cannot wish away this age-old practice of traditional healing. The best thing is to make sure that it works, and it works in a way that is beneficial and safe for everybody. So I think those are my opening statements, and then you can take over, Sipho.
No, absolutely. Very well covered indeed, Dr. Nyati. Very articulate, and thank you for that history. And of course, it's given perspective as to why we should have this discussion. And I think at this point, let me also just introduce and bring on to the conversation Mam Pelokazi. Can you come in? I think Utok has given us, just from the legal or law point of view, just your side. I mean, we have the challenges of COVID-19, and Doc just said almost 75% of Sowetans, before they go to they go to hospitals, they've tried traditional medicine. And how should traditional healers of all sorts, all faith-based, how should they be seen at this moment? Are they seen as essential workers? And should they be given the opportunity to provide services as they were?
Good afternoon to everyone in the panel. And thank you for allowing us to also have a voice in this very, I think, critical matter. Firstly, what Dr. Nyati has said is indeed what is happening. Because in our collective and probably individual practices, there is a lot of people that do come and consult traditional healers, or what I would call indigenous healers, whether it's faith healers or people that would be Izangoma, Inyanga, etc. Now, what you find is that those people will not necessarily go and declare that that's what they do as a way of getting assistance for health-related issues. And now if 75% or even above are consulting traditional healers or indigenous healers, the question is, what is the provision that is given by government and the various sectors that work with government in order to ensure that this is also recognized? Because if 75% of the people are using this as a way of addressing their health issues, then it is important to recognize that it is also important to get it regulated and maybe assist with development of protocols around how these this sector, you know, can assist in the management of COVID-19, or how we can then plug in the health system, in the health system that is providing both Western medicine and indigenous medicine. It is also important for us to understand that we don't work in isolation. A lot of times, as traditional healers, there's a cross-referral, if I can use that word, between ourselves and the Western doctors. Now, in the cross-referral, or in a time where you're getting patients that you feel you need to refer to a Western doctor, now, if those lines are blurred, it's going to be very difficult to manage our patients. And also, it's going to be very difficult for us to even be able to be accessible to our clients, because they will be scared to come and consult, even though they feel that there is a need. People's choice in terms of who they consult should be left up to the people, and should not be, there shouldn't be a limitation in terms of where they should go. Because right now, if this is not addressed, it feels like we're back in the old pre-democracy stage, whereby indigenous healing was not recognized. But if it is recognized, number one, we're avoiding a situation where there could be complications and people would be hiding them. And we're also avoiding a situation where if somebody would have an opportunity to refer an individual to a Western practitioner, those situations would be avoided. So I think it is important to understand that indigenous healers don't work in isolation, and they are in the same community, whereby if we could be seen to be reckless, that could affect the whole population. Because if, for example, we're doing certain rituals and we're doing the rituals in groups, and somebody is not aware that they should be practicing in a way that makes sure that there's social distancing and certain safe hygienic practices, if a person is doing that, you will find that the people that come to those gatherings are exposed to infection. And so it's important for us to understand that we cannot then exclude indigenous healing from this process.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that. Yes, we're just sending out a notice to say, please, can we switch off the background noise? Thank you very much. It has become better. And Tata Tebe, can you come in, and perhaps also, before I welcome other guests that are coming on board, Tata Tebe, your take on just what UDOC has just given us in terms of regulations, the law, and the history of our traditional healers. How should faith-based organizations be assisting our people during this time?
Yes, let me greet everyone and greet the panel that is here. Good afternoon to all of you.
Good afternoon.
From a very important perspective of what Dr. has raised in the background of the traditional healers and everyone. One must say that the faith-based organization, the entire intention of it was to embrace different religions or faiths to come together in order for them to have a space to be recognized, both in the arms, in the three spheres of the government, which is the local government, the provincial government, and the national government. So it is very important for us to say that we don't leave traditional healers, the prophets and everyone in the process. We embody and we embrace everyone to be part of us. So it is very progressive so far, particularly around us in Johannesburg, whereby we are now working with the faith healers. You would remember that a number of issues prior to the HIV/AIDS pandemic that broke in the country, they were completely sidelined. And the reason why they were sidelined, it was the issues of that their medicines were not measured, their medicines were not in line with the prescriptions of that. You would remember that. So what is important now is that we are now beginning to have a word with the government, and very progressively so, we are now beginning to see the recognition of the traditional healers in line with the government requirements and needs in total of that. So it is very important for us to recognize the traditional healers. Let me take you back. Way back in the years, we never had so many surgeries in our communities like we are currently now. We used to grow up whereby we were taken to a healer when a child is running, has got a running tummy, a headache, and all that. And prophets were already there. As Zion, they were using intambo, amanzi, namakandle, which is very important. But however, Westernization took shape within our societies, and we had more graduates from the universities who began to understand the philosophy around to say Westernization is much more relevant than the African methods. Between the two, the democratic dispensation saw a huge movement or a change whereby now people are saying, let us talk to these people. What is it that they can offer? How can they be assisted? Now remember, these are more spiritual people that are more guided by the spirits or the ancestral calling that give them the upper edge in terms of foreseeing the future. So we are very happy how the government has unfolded and working with our traditional healers. We actually pressing more that they need to begin to have areas where they can manufacture their own medicines in the correct way, unlike what we see where they are selling now in the streets. You know, we need to begin to formulate a system that is talking to them so that they are able also to contribute positively to the GDP of the country at large. Thank you, Baba.
Thank you so much for that, Bishop Debe, and representing the faith-based organizations. Thank you for that. Let me also take this opportunity to welcome Me Gogo Pepisile Maseko, who is from the Traditional Health Organization. I don't see your visuals, Mama. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you also hear me?
Okay. Yeah. We can hear you. We just need to see we need to see you, Mom. We need to see, you need to just fix the camera. Oh, there we go. Mama. For IR. There we go. Okay. Yeah, can you hear us, Mom?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us in this conversation. I'm sure you've heard Udok started off with Dr. Nyati giving us a perspective as to what is the history of just faith-based organization and traditional healers. What is your take, especially around faith this time of the COVID-19? How should we, government respond to people like yourself, Mama, like Abo Koko and Abo, our traditional healers? How should governments assist, and how should you be offering services to our people?
Sorry, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much for hosting the meeting and also for making sure that we participate in this very important meeting about us. It's very, very important. I sincerely apologize for not making the time for the meeting. My name is, as mentioned, my name is Pepisile Maseko. Chair, what I should talk to probably would be that I'm not sure how much ground has been covered by Dr. Nyati and Bishop Debe, but I've picked up a few things from the presentation Bishop Debe. But what I can say from a traditional health perspective, it is that traditional healing in the country is a legal healing profession. We have an act, which is Act number 22 of 2007,
yes,
which speaks to the recognition of the practice. It says recognizes 4 categories of practitioners. It recognizes the diviners, who are famously known as Izangoma. It recognizes the herbalists, who are known as Okaya, which are those that are at the Faraday Muti Market, who belongs to the city of Johannesburg. And then there's another category, which is traditional surgeons, Abotata Nabomama, who are responsible for the rites of passage of girls and boys, young girls and boys. And then the 4th category is that of Ababeletis, your traditional birth attendants, or your indigenous gynecologists. We've got these 4 categories that are legally practicing in the country. And also not just that, not just legally, being recognized in the country, but also WHO, which our country is signatory to, has developed a lot of policies. Among others, there's a policy on African traditional medicine, and it tells the countries which are signatory members of the WHO on what is it that they need to do to demonstrate recognition, to ensure that traditional medicine in different countries is institutionalized, to make sure that traditional medicine is cultivated, is sustained, traditional healing practice is also regulated. And it suggests how these things should be done. It tells us and it tells countries that it should be done in forms of laws, in forms of policies, in forms of also strategy documents that could be planning documents that could be developed, aid, in fast tracking the institutionalization of traditional medicine. Let's just quickly come back to the country. In South Africa, what we then were able to see was that in South Africa, there was government was able, I think about 7 years later, after 2007. Remember, the Traditional Health Practitioners Act was promulgated in 2007, but it was only implemented, what is in the law was implemented 7 years later after rigorous protests that we had to lead as the THO. So then the government was able to put together a council of traditional health practitioners. Unfortunately, as I speak to you, Chair, that council is the job of the work of the council has expired. So we no longer have a council that regulates the profession now. So that's probably another challenge. So that vacuum creates for anything to happen. Among other things to happen is that it creates as well for charlatans to emerge and say, "Mina ngiyakwazi ukulapha ini," and so on. But in any case, what is important now that we need to do is that fast forward the COVID period. It is that obviously we have a Traditional Health Practitioners Act that tells us what is it that a practitioner of traditional medicine should do. One of the things that are well tabled in the Act, it says traditional health practitioners should practice as professionals. They should refrain from pretending, to know what they don't actually know. And it also says to us there are penalties for people that says they can be able to treat things that they are not able to do. It gives you a whole list of the do's and the don'ts for practitioners, which is beautiful during this time of COVID. Now, what is only important, and also it spells out very clear the purpose there. It says one of the purposes is that traditional health practitioners need to be developed. They need to be trained. They need to be part of health promotion. They need to be part of, they need to also be a body that is able to respond to health challenges of the country and work towards providing solutions to the health crisis of a country. The THP Act tells us exactly where we fit in. That is why we protested when President did not mention us as one of the beneficiaries for essential service. We understand behind that there could be that President was thinking, what if they get infected? But then President was not supposed to think for us. He was supposed to consult with us and say, and we are going to tell him, these are the preoccupations we have about practicing and all of those things. Now, what we then realized was happened during COVID, it was that all of the health professions were elevated and allowed to work, but us. Pharmacies were opened, but us. So we asked ourselves, because, you know, the Faraday multi-market is run by health professions according to the THP Act, which means they have a right to also operate. That also the city of Johannesburg also has to provide them with permits and all the sorts of support as it is mentioned in the THP Act, that we need to be protected. We need to protect the public that goes to traditional health practice. So during the time of COVID, there is specific work that we can do. One, we need to be part of education. We need to be able to develop education tools that we are going to use for educating our own people in the sector, because we have to use terminologies and a culture and language that is relevant to the sector. We also have to be involved in also tracing of patients, you know, that could have contracted the epidemic, you know, the coronavirus. We can be part of tracing. We can also be part of testing. For some of the healers that are saying, particularly the younger healers who are out of jobs, they can participate there. But more than that as well, it is that the Faraday multi-market needs to continue to work, because other people, you know, needs to get from multi-markets, they need to get certain plants that they can use, you know, for boosting their immunity. It is important that that access is at least opened so that it allows for business to function. The other thing that I think I need to make you aware, Madam Speaker, it is that I think it's important that I need to make you aware that there was a research that was done, a study that was done in 2007. The study was done by the South African Health Review. What was picked from that study? It is that African traditional medicine contributes close to 3 billion to the GDP of the country. It employs 330,000 herb collectors, and also that the amount of money that we contribute, it is about 5.6% to the national health budget. And the funny thing, or the most painful thing, is that the money that we contribute does not go back to the development of the sector, African traditional medicine. Those are some of the challenges that we have. But in a nutshell, that is exactly who we are and where we are at, Madam Chairperson. I'm sorry for taking long.
No, thank you for that update. Thank you very much, Mama Ralebocha. And let me also say Archbishop Professor Shabalala. And Archbishop is from Ikaya Lezayoni. Archbishop, are you there? Can you hear us?
I hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Can we see you, Archbishop? Can you turn your camera on so that Rudu Medi is listening? Are you there, Archbishop?
I'm there, but I can't.
Oh, okay. I think without taking up much time, Bishop, maybe if you can also come in, maybe introduce yourself and quickly just summarize your view with regards to how faith-based organizations, the way during this time, COVID-19, offer some help and services to our people, just like Dingaka and other sectors. They play an important role in our society. So your take on the conversation, Bishop?
Can we, Sipho, maybe before Archbishop Abu, can we assist Archbishop to show his face if it's possible?
Okay.
We can see him. Yeah, if he can be assisted on what to press for
You must
him.
press the camera thing.
Yes.
Camera, Archbishop.
I must look for the camera thing.
He
Yeah, look
pressed.
for yeah.
There's something that says video. You must enable the video. It's on the lower part of the screen.
Can you see it, Prof?
No, I don't see it.
Okay. Well, you can speak then.
Okay, Prof, maybe if you can do an yeah, if you can take over and just carry on, Doc.
Thank you very much. I think I'm sorry I've changed my phone. It has just dropped down. Then I changed to my tablet. It's not functioning as the phone. That's why maybe you cannot see me. But
Okay.
I greet everybody. And my take really is Angoma and all this was unpacked should really be recognized as medical doctors. They do. But I would
Yeah, good.
Oh, thank you.
Good.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Okay. Those are the Lumuzinji. I think to me, Chair, it is about
Okay.
how to a person who is a Mtandazo wasezayoni, who is praying for people by laying hands and by what they call is washo, and how do these people register themselves? Because there are many which are not registered. That makes me very worried. So that if these people are attending to people, assisting people, but at the same time, they won't be recognizing the law of social distance and you name it. How will we do to these people? What should they be told? Because my duty is to educate the uneducated, so that those people are many I know. Ngape Sangomeni, it's okay, and all that. It's well done. But Ngapa Ezayoni, it's really not up to the mark. There are a lot of surgeries which are there, which are not recognized, which they did not apply, which they do not conform. Therefore, I think that is the part which I'm most interested in. But I understood all the laws and what the doctor said, what Dr. Tebe said, and Nokoko Akshilo, I understand very clearly. But that is my problem I'm having with some of the majority Yalabatandas versus Zion. Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay. Thank you very much, Archbishop. Dr. Nyati, can the doctor?
Sipho.
Pardon?
Sorry, Wendy. President CBC, where African religion is struggling to connect also, man.
The technical guys, I'm speaking to them as we speak. We're trying to connect everybody at the moment. They will join us as we proceed, if that's okay.
Okay.
Okay, Dr. Nyati, maybe if you can come in, a lot
Yes.
has been said.
Yeah.
Just your take.
All right. I think maybe let's focus on what is happening now during the state of disaster, during the lockdown. And I had the benefit of listening to Mam Pepsile, Ugog Pepsile, Izolo, Metro FM. And there's a lot that I think she needs to share from the lobbying and the engagement between Bona and the Minister of Health. So I think that update would be very relevant to Uguti, what is the status as at today. So Mam Gog Pepsile, I think you can come in.
Okay. Thokoza, Dr. Okay. Maybe before I even go into discussing what we discussed about with Minister, let me just try and understand something. Archbishop.
Sicela ukuphephusela aphinda phakame sikhona ukumbona sibona nje iduku kuphela. So phinde
manje. Can you see me now?
Yeah, we can
Yes,
see
we
you
can.
now.
Okay. Basically what I'm trying to understand is ukuthi if Archbishop ati ama members wabo, they are struggling to get them to register. I think it will help us to understand what sort of registration are they struggling with? Are they struggling to register them as congregants, or are they struggling to register them as healers? Because if it's as healers, I think it would be nice for him to unpack what sort of healing do they do? And what is it that they use in healing? Because Tina, with us, it's clear. With us, Tina Sisebendisa, it's either animal products, which is biological resources, or it is plant resources. So the biological resources, as it's Sebendisago, enables us, because through that you can be able to pick science. You can be able also in a laboratory and validate. So in the case of Bona, I understand Archbishop ucabanga ukuthi mhlawumbe bangaregister babe bobani ke bona ngoba kuna the 4 categories. Maybe ngendlule lapho. Kodwa probably coming back to le khulunywa ngudokotela Fundile. We had 2 meetings, Dokotela. The first meeting we had was 2 weeks ago on a Saturday with the Minister Umkhize. Actually, it was the first meeting was more on registering our misgivings on how we are treated as a stakeholder. You know, the lack of consultation, and yet we are impacted upon by the lockdown period as well. So, and also some of the things that we think are bothering the sector, which among others would include they don't have the PE, they don't have Gudla, you know, the food parcels, they don't have adequate education. Even myself, I don't have adequate education on COVID-19. I thoroughly need training. I mean, there's need for training for myself, because, and that is why they should stop claiming to treat COVID, because if I were to ask them COVID, they'll fail to engage, or they'll fail to assist me to understand COVID. So they should refrain from that, but instead let us rather say, if you've got medicines that you think are useful for respiratory related conditions, let's rather take those medicines, go with those medicines to the Department of Science and Innovation. Let's bring on board science councils like the 4 universities that we have, you know, we've signed an agreement to work with, which is University of Free State, University of KwaZulu-Natal, the University of Pretoria, and Wits. So these 4 universities are now involved with us to work with us as partners in investigating whether or not the plant species that we've given to them are indeed effective for this COVID pandemic. So we will not discuss those things, the detail hereof, because those have to be discussed by there's a certain protocol that we need to follow. The minister will lead the country in that and all of those. But then the good thing is that we have started already. We've invited Department of Health to come on board and also fund the program so that at least it is well funded, because the research is quite expensive. There's clinical trials to be done there. The South African Health Products Authority, it's SAPRA. Unfortunately, it does not have a unit that is responsible for African traditional medicine. We are busy trying to help it to transform. It is very difficult. But then I think with the involvement of Minister of Health, Minister of Science and Innovation, we will see, and also the Presidential Command Council will see some change there. Then yesterday, fast forward, then the minister was supposed to meet with us the previous Tuesday. Unfortunately, we could not meet with him because nurses wanted to go on strike. So minister was hectic. So he had to make sure that he's able to avert all of that. But then what he did was that yesterday we had a meeting with Dr. Ringani Gaseme. I'm not sure if you know him. He's part of the Presidential Command. He's an advisor to minister. We met with her because we are going to be putting in place regulations for healers so that we join into the bigger bucket of regulations. So we are busy, as you know, that is why I think I took a bit long. It's because I'm part of the drafting committee to draft those regulations. So we're busy drafting regulations that will be announced by minister. So yeah, it's basically that. And in the regulations, there are certain things that we're requesting there. We're requesting that traditional health practitioners are treated as essential service providers, that municipalities also issue out permits to multi-markets and all of them. But already we have seen that
Seem to have lost.
there's good action. Have you lost me?
We'll just for about 30 seconds.
Oh, sorry. Am I back?
Yeah, you are back.
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you very much. And I was just saying that some of the developments that we have seen through the pressure in terms of advocacy lobbying is that we have seen the eThekwini multi-market. It is now opened. We have requested that the municipality there assist with providing the hygiene and safety products to those to the traders there, and we are seeing that at least they are becoming responsive. It is not easy, but at least we're seeing some change. But all of those things are going to be entailed in this bigger document, which is the regulations document. Maybe I can end it there.
Just one thing, Gog Pepsil. Thokoza Kamako. I just picked up something which maybe is a bit confusing for somebody who's a little bit outside. In terms of the act, yes, there's 4 categories: diviners, herbalists, birth attendants, and also I just forgot the 4th one. Yeah. Now, I want to understand, because my understanding is that you were involved in working with the government before the act was passed. Any particular reason why faith healers were not included in the broader, definition of people who are considered to be traditional healers in South Africa?
It was precisely because we felt they don't think they are healers themselves. They don't think so because when they are at church, they demonize us. They don't seem to, and the other thing is that they are using water to heal. We're using medicine that we cook in water. So with us, there's some chemical reaction that happens there. So we don't understand how that chemical reaction in just praying for water is happening.
But couldn't that be viewed as discrimination? Remember, the Constitution, prohibits any form of discrimination in terms of religion, culture, and things like those. So couldn't that be then a situation where a sector that was traditionally seen as being part of the broader definition of traditional healing would feel left out and marginalized?
Some people may think of it in that way, but then I don't think people that have a deeper understanding of healing, of indigenous healing philosophy, because you know you need to understand something. You need to understand the minute we bring in just about everything into traditional healing, which is a sector and a profession that is already stigmatized, you are not creating anything better for the profession. You are making the profession to take long for it to be recognized and developed further. Now, there's quite a lot of there's mushrooming of churches every morning and every day. If you are saying you are going to be able to regulate just about every other person who carries holy water, I think it's going to be difficult. But what we are saying as practitioners is that if wena uthi naki msebeletsi or ngingumama othandazayo sithi kulungile siyajabula because nathi traditional healing, remember, it is holistic in its nature. It heals the mind, the body, and the soul, you know. But then it does not have to be abused in the holistic sciences that it applies. Instead, what we need to do is that we need to say, if mama othandazayo, how much of traditional medicine knowledge, the application thereof, do you have? If you don't have any of those, then we say to you, no, you cannot belong here. And I think it is also a right that we are able to deny people that we think are not directly, you know, belonging to a profession. For instance, I don't think nurses and you Western doctors, you would allow me as a traditional health practitioner to immediately, you know, come up and rock up and say, I'm a Western medical practitioner. I mean, it is uncalled for, it can't happen. So it is within that ambute that we said, we can't just allow everyone. However, we do have and employ African indigenous spirituality in our way of work, but then this is how we want it to be done.
Amongst the panelists, is there somebody who comes from this sector of faith healers so that maybe we hear from them rather than talking about them whilst they are here? Ngena baba.
Can I just clarify this point? In the category of the people I lead, Panama categories ahlukene. One, kukhona labantu esithi banekhono lokutaka. Hayi lokuthakatha. I don't have a word in English. Banekhono lokutaka. Babuka ihlahla.
To compound.
Angizo?
Compounder. The chemist.
All right, yes.
Yes.
Then usebenzisa le gama abalaziyo nengiliqondayo ukuthi bayathaka banamandla abayanga esikolweni ukuthi bafundise ukuthaka. It has been a gift given to them spiritual. Bakwazi ukuthatha izihlahla izinto ezidalwe uNkulunkulu basebenzise zilaphe abantu. That is the category we have. Then I'm asking, ukuthi umuntu onjalo usizwa kanjani? That's number one. Isiyoni lo muntu. Two, kukhona abantu umuntu oyisiyoni gogo ohambile wayothwasa waba isangoma wenza all the processes. But lo wasebuyiselwa ukuthi cha funeka aqhubeke nobuyoni bakhe uyabo uselapho. That one I don't have a problem with because loyo uyazi imithetho yenu lapho. Sinazo izangoma ezibuyiselwe ekutheni noma zinendumba sezinikwe ukuthi the other level, that's what they tell us. The other level yabo ukuthi bathandane. Le engikhuluma ngayo engiworried ngayo gogo yabo, it's not structured. yabo. And ngiyazi kahle ngoba ngizalelwe eZioni. I'm above 70 now. The way ebephiliswa ngayo, laba abantu abezayo manje basebenzisa amanzi, siyababona nje. Kodwa thina sikhule ngokuthi uma ugula uzothatha amanzi, plain water, akhulekelwe lawo manzi. La manzi agcine enepower ikazifo zonke. Ngikhule ngalokho. I have seen that. But that you cannot take and go to the lab and say it must be tested and what? Because this it's a spiritual power. Ekulowo muntu okwazi ukuyenza. Akayanga esikolweni, akayanga ndawo. Uyaphilisa. Omunye kwakwami ukwazi nje ukuthi uthi na ugula abeke izandla, laying hands and praying to you, uphile. You see, now, yes, bakhona ke manje abavundukayo ngiyababona, but my worry is those people who still have this talent ekhulise mina engiphila ngayo manje bayaqhubeka. Besinabo vele nakudala abathwasayo, besinabo vele abathwasayo. I know those. I don't have a problem. I have a problem with these people. So these are the people whom we must ask to stop their practices during this COVID. Kodwa, they do have the power of healing people. Abanye abantu bakwazi ukubakhipha amadimoni, abanye abantu bakwazi ukukhipha the spells which are there. Abanye kuhluleka odokotela ebhedlela babuye kubo baphilise. I have records of such people. But those people, they can't take water and the power they are given. But iloku akuyelep. It's unleppable. Angazi ngathini.
Can we hear from Babu Tebe?
Yes, Dokotela, you know, I want to cut in the middle and I want to thank the show. What Professor is raising and what Ukoko PPC is raising, it must then begin to give homework to the FPO. How do we bring the two together? You see, because if you listen to what Professor is saying, it might be that the Amazayoni side might not have been making a lot of noise for them to understand. Rather, they found themselves, they were like a category, a church's regulation, whereby it clouds over the part of the spiritual healing and the trade discussion that is here. I did manage to pick up, now there's something that we need to do as the FPO. But what I want to bring on here is that within Zion, we might be able to say that Babu Shabalala, no Koko PPC, they must find a thin root that they are going to work together, which is very essential in this approach. Because remember, what is happening in general is that most 80% of the traditional healers, they belong to Zion, if not 95% of them. And these are the people that continue with their practices. But the part that I would want to come into is the part that says that with church regulation, Zion need to add more points into that and do their submission correctly so that they are able to find a platform of speaking about this part. And they are not saying that they are left out. And to me, that is what is going to assist us as a faith-based organization to begin to talk to Amazion. They are quite a huge number, and they have got quite a huge churches that they are running. But when it comes to this thing of COVID-19, the part whereby Babu Shabalala was saying, they will lay hands onto the people and call in the name of Jesus, and people will be healed, and people will walk, and people will feel saved. That is the part that we are saying as the FPO. COVID-19 should then be saying that, Babu Shabalala, we will not be able to do those practices for now because we were not ready for COVID-19. Am I still there?
Yes, you're still there.
Oh, we were not ready for COVID-19. We never foresaw this coming. So it is important that we take the same route that we guided the traditional healers with, to say that can we be able to put these practices on hold until such a time whereby the COVID-19 situation is cleared and the bilaterals between various structures now are going to begin to engage. And that's the part I wanted to raise, Doctor.
Now, maybe I just want to ask, and everyone from the traditional healing side, as much as the government had regulations to say these are essential workers, medical doctors, veterinarian surgeons, and all of that, but within those, there still had to be work done by those professions to say, within what we do, our scope of practice, what could be considered critical and essential ukuthi yenzakale manje during COVID, and what could be considered ukuthi le ingenziwa mase remove away lockdown. Now, I want to ask from all the traditional healers as khona la, ukuthi have they been able ukubheka ukuthi firstly, have they been able to practice during the time of lockdown if there are emergencies? Number two, have they themselves been able to say, singai postpone until after lockdown? No, it's critical that it continues.
Okay, maybe I can come in there. Ngiyabonga kakhulu, Dr. Nyathi umbuzo. What we did with the regulations, it is that good regulations sikhonile kwekuthi sihlukanise, insebenzo yethu. Sitheke, there is insebenzo that we call emergency service and critical service. And part of critical service, sishiloke sathi kufana ne-bone setting. Uyahamba uthole accident, bakufake ube ne-fracture, ufake leza insimbi, but then you also need imihlabelo kuze ukuthi ukwazi ukuthi ugcine sowuhamba uba ne-motion, uba nayo yonke into. Sithe that aspect uzawufuneka ichubeke ngoba izingozi zonke izinto sisenzele, and abanye abantu bakhona vele bayadinga ukuncediwa. And then bese sesithe kunabantu abanenkinga, abane-mental health condition, ananamuhla balashwa ngabelaphi bendabuko, aba responsible for mental health conditions. Those ones bakhona namanje, abanye bakhona sebephumile, abanye bakhona basesele. Sithe those are critical services to run. Then ke bese kunezinto esithe those ones zifuna ukunceda ugovernment, so that we are able to segment between things that can be delayed and things that can be provided as part of critical and emergency. Then sathi ke okungadelayeka ukuthi senze inhlombe, senze ama-initiation, senze ama-rites of passage, senze imigidi ethile, the celebrations. Sathi lezo-ke sizazibeka later. Ngoba if sizawuthatha konke kuzoba nenkinga, because we will also not help government flatten the curve. Kodwa ke mangabe sifuna ukusebenza nohulumeni esim-understandayo, nathi futhi singafuna ukugula, sithe asibe clear ukuthi nguphi kwamanje, nguphi kwa later.
So, okay.
Thokoza Pepsile. And again, let me acknowledge everyone in the panel. Now, I think it is important, Gogo and everyone around the panel, to understand, Uguti, there are some people, there are some practitioners that right now, for example, Abokobela, who have under their care Amatwasana. And a lot of times you find that it's not just one Twasana that stays with that Gobela. There's a number of Amatwasana that stay with Ugobela. Maybe one, let me just as a practitioner acknowledge and appreciate the leadership that is provided by THP, in particular Pepsile, and the proactiveness in ensuring that the things that are happening, that are current and are happening, are then dispensed to the rest of the practitioners. That is a commendable step. But it's also important for us, even as practitioners, because I know there are practitioners that are saying, what do I do? Do I tell them to go home? And what about those ones that have got serious problems that if they go home, things are going to be reversed and then they're going to start getting sick? And it is important that we make it our initiative and our prerogative to then identify those ones that are critical and the ones that are not. Because not, like Ukoko Pepsile says, not everyone is in the same category. Even Amatwasana, like especially the ones that are more towards graduating, those ones are not as critical as the ones that have just started. And so Ugobela has a responsibility to understand it is their responsibility to take care of the lives that are under their care. It is also important for Ugobela to know where there are things that are not critical or that are not essential at this point to be done, so that you don't put those people that are under your care at risk. We wanting to flatten the curve. That is what we've been. We need to understand. If we are going to flatten the curve, we then need to limit even the number of people that are in our households, those that are able to go home, so that you can reduce the number of people in our households. Then let us do that. As practitioners, we also need to understand we can't be told everything by our leadership here, THO, or everything by government. We also need to understand our responsibility. The same way that during the AIDS epidemic, the same way that it was said, don't use a razor, the same razor on different people, is the same way that we need to practice we need to make take responsibility for the hygiene in the areas that we're practicing in, and we protect those lives that are under our care. I think that is one area that I think a lot of people are not talking about, the area Yamatwasana, because those are people that are still depending on Abokobela to learn from. And if Okobela says, you're not going anywhere, then Itwasana is going to be scared to go home. But if when as Okobela, you're saying, Gogo omkhulu, at this present moment, this is the situation. And then you come back when the time is safer for you to be there. We cannot separate. If you remember what I said in my opening statement, that we cannot work as if we're working in isolation. We do not work in isolation. We are part of a community that needs to be protected. And so we need to be responsible also in the way that we caring for our patients, number one. Number two, those people that have been allocated to us as Amatwasana. That will be my contribution at the moment, as far as the question that Dr. Nyati asked.
Doc, thank you very much. Madam Speaker, you want to jump in?
Yes, I am not contributing this topic today. It's I'm not an expert on the topic, but I would want to ask a question, because this discussion is for the benefit of the viewers and people who are listening here. Usis Pelogazi has said it repeatedly, indigenous healers don't work in isolation, as much as they are part of the community, because that's what she's saying. But also, I think indigenous healers, they work as a team, especially now. The reason why I'm raising this is because in the situation, where we find ourselves in, we need everybody to work as a collective or to work together. We need each and every brain that would come together and say, now, ultimately, we do have a solution. Who can assist our people? So I became worried. I know Gutu Doc asked a question and left the question because now I was not answered. As you were part and very active in the formulation of the act, so what about, because in my mind, I think over and above Gogo, and there are different categories of Izinyanga, as you have already alluded to. But according to my understanding, which is a legal understanding, as an African, ukuthi as well, kunabo Babu Shabalala. I know ukuthi you asked Babu Shabalala ukuthi under which category do they fall? Do they fall under faith healers or what? But they are also Abba Prophet. So I'm not sure whether Babu Shabalala, they are Abba Ezayoni, they also fall under Abba Prophet now, because there are people who would go to prophets as well and get healed there. So I know Guti, it's the faith or indigenous healing is broad, but for me, the point I'm driving home, Doc, is that all these categories, I'm not sure how are they regulated, but if they can come together in the assistance of our people. Pepsile also spoke about irresponsibility. Yabo gogo or yezinyanga. Ukuthi part of it is education. And I think I'm very fond with that. Ukuthi education, as we will be educating our people. Yesterday, we were discussing about mental health. I think it would be important for the traditional health practitioners to continue with the education, especially in the field of mental health, and more on preventive measures. How do you prevent, rather than only curing? But this situation, we agreed yesterday that the situation, it has a potential. Yokuthi mayidluli COVID-19 or during the COVID-19, sibe more people who will be affected mentally due to depression, anxiety, and that. So what then would be the role of the traditional health practitioners or the indigenous healers in assisting and educating our people on how to avoid that situation? Thank you.
Okay.
Can I just
Doc,
can I just make one little comment and then I'll step back? You know,
Okay.
it's not the first time that there is a pandemic.
No.
And the one of the pandemics that we have got lots of experience with in the world, maybe here in Africa, is the HIV and AIDS pandemic. Now, about just over 20 years ago, I had to do some research around traditional healers as part of my studies. And one of the things that was a light bulb moment for me was that in countries like Zimbabwe, Zambia, and other parts of the world, the governments in those areas, they actually invited traditional healers to work closely with Orthodox or Western doctors for information transfer. Things like not using a blade on the same person and all of that. And before then, the thinking by the Western trained people like me was that why should we be interacting with those people? But one thing we forgot was that traditional healers in their communities are highly respected. Traditional healers, they speak in a language that is understood by the people. They use concepts that are easily understood. And people even fear them that if I don't adhere to what they said I must do, they have some special powers. They will see that I did not comply. You know, so the literature from places like Zim and even here now in South Africa, especially in KZN, was showing the value of working with traditional healers when it comes to education and awareness in the communities. Because if we look at the ratio, years ago, there were maybe about 25,000 medical doctors in the country. However, there were somewhere between 300,000 to 400,000 traditional healers in the country. So in terms of numbers, they've got a better reach than us. Now, if we work closely, that is the Western and the traditional healers, and they were found to be much more open to assimilating new information. In fact, much more easier than if things were reversed. That is us, as the Western trained people, assimilating information from them. And there's enough research to support that. So the point I'm trying to say is the point that Gog Pepsile has mentioned, that they can play a positive role in education and awareness. I think it is something that needs to be leveraged because there's more of them, they've got a bigger reach, and they are open to modifying their practices should they be shown that their practices are actually not are not going to add value in flattening the curve. So I think one of the things that has to come out of here is that the request for them to be trained or educated on COVID-19 needs to be done, needs to be met, by the Department of Health. But before then, I can offer myself to provide that training in the meantime, so that ETFICA, the official one, at least one has already provided the basic information. So what I'm trying to say is let's work towards solutions now. So let's look at how can they be used to be part of a solution to taking information to the people on the ground. And people like me and others can then come in and be part of them, because in the company that I work in, I've got traditional healers, and we work very well. There's mutual respect. And as long as there's mutual respect, then everyone knows their role, then there is no problem. Anyway, that was my comment.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Doc. Also, maybe to sensitize everyone, we've got less than 15 minutes, just on 17 minutes before we wrap up our discussions. Doctor, thank you very much for an additional 30 minutes that you have given us on the show. There are a couple of questions and a voice note that has come forward from a traditional healer who also wants to make an input. Pardon?
We have President Sibisi as well on who has just joined.
Magangen.
Okay. Okay, I'll welcome them. I just want to make just to mention the comments that have been coming on all the platforms, and just to acknowledge everybody who has sent. Jabulani Baloi, thank you for your comment. He says, what is delaying the regulations? And I think Ukoko has alluded to the process so far. And Mamtandi Mdlalosa says, Siyabonga Speaker and Dr. Nyati for this conversation. Fortune Mabasa says, very informative discussion, and it should go beyond this platform. It's clear that we can work together. Thanks, Speaker. And I think, Doc, as well, you've offered your services to assist with training. And then we also have Ernest Hasha, who says, great conversation, and he's appreciating that conversation. And we also have, okay, Fortune Mabasa says, in a democratic space, the regulation of religion will be difficult. You can't regulate one's beliefs. However, I think we can regulate the establishment of organizations that engage community. Mpumikele says the webinar is very informative, and I like the fact that the indigenous healing is defined from different angles. And then Elias Nzinini says, yeah, true, Gogo, and he agrees with you, Gogo. He goes on further to say, Tokoza, Gogo, we know that traditional healers offer alternative to modern medicine, which often has a limited role. What steps are taken for those traditional healers who abuse the medicine? Maybe Gogo, you can take that question. And I think the last question comes from Elias. Maybe we can take it at the next run. Maybe Gogo, you can comment on that one, and anybody else who wants to take this opportunity to respond to the comment as well.
Sipho, why don't we welcome Ubabu Spisi? Because we're gonna run out of time.
Oh yes, yes. Okay. I don't see him. Is he in? I don't see him.
Okay.
I don't
I think
see him. Okay. Coco, can we bring you in just to respond to one or two questions, and maybe if we can make our responses a lot more quicker, maybe less than 30 seconds, just to touch on one or two issues so that we can give everybody an opportunity to respond.
Maybe let me just take the question around what happens when there is a traditional healer who is actually guilty of malpractice. The Act 22 of 2007 is very clear. It is set up very closely to, how we are regulated as medical doctors. If one is found to have been guilty of malpractice, then they can be fined, their license to practice can be taken away, and if there's criminality, even that, then the body can actually refer it to the police for, investigation and for the law to take its course. Yeah,
okay. Thank you. Maybe Mampelogazi, do you want to also take an opportunity to comment just on some of the questions that were posed to us?
Maybe the one that I would have loved to comment on is exactly the one where they're talking about a situation of malpractice. THO, okay, for those that are members of the traditional healers organization, THO, for those, THO is very clear on the standards of practice. It's very clear on what happens when a person is not, it doesn't adhere to the required standards or there's malpractice. And in cases where people have been found to have, to have practiced incorrectly, what is referred to as malpractice, there has been decisive action that has been taken against those individuals. But it's also, the communities also need to know that there are such bodies that are regulating bodies that they can report to, because sometimes you find that the community doesn't report because they're scared of the individual, right? They're scared of the individual because the person is a traditional healer. But it is also important for the communities to raise it with bodies like THO, because currently that is the biggest body that we have. And also it's got very clear guidelines in terms of the standards of practice. So that's the question that I would like to answer on. Ukok Pepsile seems to have left us.
It looks like we've lost her. I don't know if anybody else wants to take this opportunity. There's a voice note that I would like to play. I don't know, Bob Tebet, do you want to take an opportunity on this?
Yeah, no. Mine is a very short one. I just want in less than 2 seconds. I just want to say thank you very much, but we should also be considerate of the Hindu healers, which we couldn't get for this platform. And I think with Dr. Nyati, he has made a very clear point in terms of assisting with the training. That training must be inclusive of Amazayoni and Hindu people. So it should not be exclusive and only focus on the traditional healers, because I think there's a thin line to separate the three groups. So we need to cut in the middle with that. And that's the point that I would want to make.
Absolutely. Archbishop Shabalala, do you want to,
Thank you, sir. Mine is short now concerning the COVID-19. I wrote a letter to all members of the expertise of Thandazelo. Then it said, okwamanje asiyeke ukubeka abantu izandla because of this sickness. 2, asiyeke ukubusisa abantwana and because of the sickness. But uma umuntu efuna ukuthandaza, there is power which these people are given. Bakwazi ukuthandazela ukubisa igama lakho la ukhona bakuthandazela. Nalabo abakwazi ukuprofita, abathi umuntu akagqoke ijazi elithize bamkhulekele. We have stopped that ukuthi okwamanje akume. Kodwa sizama ukuthi wonke umthetho obekiwe sizame ukuthi noma sazi ukuthi akhona lamandla ayasebenza, but it is not safe okwamanje ngoba awumuzi umazi umuntu ozomkhulekela ukuthi usenaso lesifo akufakele nawe isifo ufakele abanye. That is my comment ukuthi as leaders yonke lento any risk we must stop any practice ezofaka impilo zabantu enkingeni. I thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Can I play a quick voice clip from Dr. Julius? He's a traditional healer, and I'm hoping that it will be audible for everyone to hear. And then from there, we can try and close this conversation with closing comments. Thank you. Listen up for Dr. Julius.
Okay. You know what I said is that, yeah, Mr. Sipo, I hope I try my best. I try. You know what I said is the truth most, because even if I can come up with something now, the government will never listen to it. Even if I say I got help that can help people, the government, the medical doctors will say no. The government must not listen. That guy, he must be stopped not to practice again. So that's where my hands are tied. You see, I hope I try my best. Anyway. Hello. It's me, Dr. Julius. I'm a traditional healer. So as of this COVID-19 issue, as you people know that our hands are tied as traditional healers because the reason being that the government, we are struggling because the government didn't recognize us. Even the meetings, it don't involve us. So we're just hands tied for now. And by myself, as I'm saying, at this time like this, I'm trying only to deal with my patients and my family members and friends, those that depend on me. But when it comes to national issue like this one, our hands are tied because
I think I'm gonna leave it there in the interest of time. But I think in a nutshell, Dr. Julius does say that as a traditional healer, their hands are tied, and I'm not sure now that Ukoko is not here, but Doc, you wanna respond?
Yeah, I think what is important is that people, obviously there is the statutory body, the interim THP, committee, whose term has just come to an end, the board. But there's also associations that people belong to. One of those is the THO that was here. Unfortunately, now I think people should belong to structures and then allow leadership of those structures to lobby, and we've already heard from Mam Pepsile here that as THO and others, they have been lobbying government, and they are actually at a point where in a few days there will be regulations. So, and obviously everyone will have to abide by those regulations. And so, Dr. Julius, I hope he's not a loner, but somebody who works within structures, so that if he does things that are not necessarily in line with what is expected, he can also be taken to task. So I'm basically saying the fact that the interim body at the top, there's some challenges there, but the act is still, valid, and the associations that represent these people, will continue to lobby, and maybe he should just be in touch with those kind of associations and belong as a member.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Doctor. And can I give maybe Professor, Archbishop Chabalala, maybe your last closing remarks, less than a minute, just to wrap it up, just to encourage our people, and then we'll go through the list. Ubaba Tebe, you can.
Sithi kusiza sonke sase South Africa isimo esikuso besingasibhekanga but all the powers which God has given us differently, we must communicate with Him who gave us for us ukuthi sikwazi ukuthi kube ne-solution in whatever we are having. I'm pleading to everybody, try and abide, try and listen to the president. But our concerns also, they must be tabled properly with respect. Ngoba that is very important. Asikho isikhathi sokulwa manje, isikhathi sokuthi sisebenzisane. I thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Tebe?
Yes, my last word is to say to all South Africans, let us take this opportunity and grab it with both hands. We can be able to reduce this COVID-19 by simply adhering to the rules and the guidelines that is given by our government. Let us stay at home and let us be safe. Let us make sure that whenever we get out, we put on a mask yako, you put on a gloves wako. When you go for shopping, you come back, you stay in the house. Staying in the house does not mean you moving up and down in the street. And that is what brings the challenge. May the good Lord bless you. And thank you very much, all of you that are listening to this show. Let us take the opportunity and say, indeed, I stay inside, I stay behind, and keep my family safe and my friends safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nyati. I'm not sure how you ended it, but in conclusion, I would say, as practitioners, we would like to participate in education, and not just only being recipient, but also after being trained as train the trainers, we then ourselves, we train our peers. And also the other thing is that there is post-COVID work that needs to be done. Into lock-in, we do not quite understand such that there is need for cleansing and thorough healing that needs to happen after you've been locked in. So those things, I think, are things that we need to know. We also would want to request to the municipality to also assist with permits for Abelapi, Abase Faraday, because we really need to go there to pick imitate. But also, most importantly, it is that there is no need for anyone to just go around town. You know, there are no shops that are opened. So if there is no need, there is no emergency, there is no need for you to go anywhere, then you rather stay at home, you know, look after yourself, connect with your spirituality, and be protected and safe. But then where there's an emergency, of course, we understand it's an emergency. Thokozani.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, Ma'am Pilagazi, can you say your final say? We are almost out of time, and then yeah, please.
Okay, on my side, I would like to say to plead with the people of South Africa to understand that our common enemy is COVID-19. Not one another, not the government, not the other people in the community or people that are different in our belief systems. Let's work together in protecting our nation and saving lives. So we just need to adhere to every guideline that we've been given that can help us, whether it's social distancing or sanitizing, every single guideline that we've been given, if we can just adhere to that so that we can fight this common enemy. Thank you, Thokozani.
Thokoza.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm not sure if I'm the only one, but my connection has been very poor. I didn't hear some of the important comments, but I would like to appreciate our participants for the knowledge you have imparted here this afternoon. And I'm sure that our citizens are really empowered in terms of, but what is important, it's your role in this problem and in this enemy, or in fighting the enemy that we are faced with. Pelokazi has correctly defined it. So we work together with our government, and I am very happy to hear Bogogo and everybody, all the leaders here, that we are all committed in working together with our government. And we are in the city of Johannesburg, and to hear that we are committed to work together with our executive mayor in the fight to flatten the curve, particularly in Johannesburg and in Gauteng and in the entire South Africa. So let us work together and educate our citizens in making sure that this virus does not spread any further from now. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Doc, you're going to close it up. You've also offered to do training. I don't know, is it going to be a virtual training?
Well, let's think about it. Let's think it's possible to do it virtually. The only problem is that the data may just be a challenge, for some people. So let's have that as an offline discussion to see how can that be enabled. But the willingness and readiness is there. So, but we'll take it offline and see how we can address it as soon as possible.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to everybody. We really appreciate the comment and very fruitful and engaging discussion. We've learned a lot indeed, and we appreciate you, Murima Belelona.
Togoza.
Thank you.
Thank you.